First thing I want to point out about this place is that this thing that's behind us, that little hill deal, okay, is called Tel Arini, okay? And way before anything related to the state of Israel, okay, one of the things that's important to note is that this is conjectured to be the city of Gat, okay? The archaeologists who have done some excavating up there have conjectured that this might be the city of Gat, which is why the city just south of here is called Kiryat Gat, okay? There's a lot of people think that it's actually disproven. There's another place that's much further on that was the city of Gat, but that's that, okay? This place, ever since then, right, was an Arab town, and it was called Iraq Al-Mashiyya, okay? And one of the things that I wanted to say is that right now, where we're up to is the end of November, the beginning of December, right? And what's happening now in this whole area is that the Israeli army has encircled the Egyptian army in this area that's split between, some of it is encamped here, okay, in a city that's called Iraq Al-Mashiyya, which is basically starts from the tip of the mountain where there used to be a mosque at the top of the hill, and then coming down along the sides. And if you take a look at an aerial view, you can still see some of the roads from up top. There's a couple broken down buildings, but there really isn't a whole lot else to see. And the city kind of went down this way, along through this road, the 35, and a little bit into the industrial area of Kiryat Gat, okay? Much of the Egyptian army was here, but the most of it was still across the wadi at the other end in Fallujah, okay? So what happened was that come December time, basically what was still happening is that the Egyptians were still trying to get supplies in, convoys of supplies in, okay? By the end of December, and the Israeli army was still finding various different convoys that were trying to get to this area, okay? But
on the supplying ammunition too.
Ammunition and supplies, whatever it'll be.
No, it wasn't allowed.
What?
It wasn't allowed, but they find out that they brought some ammunition too.
They were trying to, but they haven't gotten through. There wasn't a convoy that got through. They brought ammunition to here, okay? At least from what I've read.
I was reading that they did, and that was one of the problems.
Before December and before November of 48.
Before November.
Yeah, so we're talking December and 48. By the time they captured the fortress that we just went to, the Egyptians were trying to get munitions over here, but they couldn't. And the Egyptian army was cut off from all supplies. They were hungry and they were still trying to get along, but they didn't do anything. Okay, and then what happened is that, you know, just to recall that the Israeli army twice tried to capture this place from the Egyptian army, but they never really had the opportunity. They never really were able to capture it from this area. So they were just, the army was here and they were just waiting for it. Okay? And there used to be, like what I was saying before, is that there was the brigades that were here. So there was brigades that were here. There was the Givati brigade, and there was, and you know, they were the main troops that was here. But basically, on the 16th of December, another brigade came to relieve them, and that was called the Alexandroni Brigade. And that was, there's a symbol of them over here. This is the Alexandroni Brigade. And the Alexandroni Brigade was based, their home base, most of their recruits came from the area of Netanya, which is just outside of Kadima. Zaidi was part of the Alexandroni Brigade at the time, and they came and they started to you know, guard this area and make sure that there wasn't anything going on. On the 24th of December, David Ben-Gurion came to visit in this area, and he went to the fortress that we went to before, and he spoke with a number of the commanders in the area. And he basically said David Ben-Gurion was very, one of the things that was most important for him was to capture as much of the Negev as he could. He was a big believer in cultivating the Negev, trying to get the Negev, you know, set up and everything. So he decided that what we were going to do was go on another. So we just finished Mivtza Yoav, and it was still, you know, guarding in this area. And he decided that what we were going to do is do another Mivtza called Mivtza Chorev. And the intent of Mivtza Chorev was to push back the Egyptian army from every spot as far as they could away from land that was part of the Negev. Okay? So he determined that what they were going to do is basically push back the Egyptian army at various different spots, and one of the spots that needed to be taken to drive the Egyptian army out of was this spot, okay? So on the 28th of December, was the second night of Hanukkah, okay? And what the Alexandroni Brigade was given the order to attack, and what they basically did was split into four different groups. the first group was, their whole intention was to block a bridge that was over the wadi that we passed from Fallujah, where most of the Egyptian army was, blow up the bridge and keep most of the army over there. And then there were two brigades, two chativot of the brigade that was supposed to attack most of the city, which was from here down. And the third, which was a religious brigade, okay, it was almost completely religious, they were ordered to attack the hilltop. So they went up the hill and were attempting to capture the mosque and the stronghold that existed at the top. So all through the night, they lit their second candle of Hanukkah, and then they attacked, basically coming around 3 o'clock in the morning. They attacked from 3 o'clock in the morning, and then they started to go from house to house. Okay, the two brigades, or the two chativot that were attacking at the lower end of the hill, had a lot of success. They started to clear out the houses, but the ones that went up the hill had a tremendous amount of losses. Okay, they had 87 people that were killed trying to go up and attack and get this stronghold at the top of the hill. Okay, so what they did is they were under the command of this was Ben-Zion Hellman. So he ordered the remaining troops that he had, the ones that were wounded, etc., to go to the base of the hill, and they found a little yard and they then camped out over there. Okay. Meanwhile, the two other plugot were still, or the two other chativot were still going through and trying to attack, and Zaidi was part of one of those chativot that was at the base of the hill trying to go in between them. Meanwhile, the other chativah that was out there trying to block the Egyptian army failed at their mesima. They couldn't block the Egyptian army, so the Egyptian army started to advance and come in this area. At which time, all of the Alexandroni brigade that was here got an order to retreat. Okay, and that's what they did. The two chativot that were at the base of the hill, even though they had taken a good part of the city, retreated. But Ben-Zion Hellman, with a lot of his troops, the 87 troops that were wounded or dying, whatever it would be, he wouldn't leave until the last, until all of his men could be evacuated with him. So he stayed, and the rest of the plugat left, and they went back to the main lines for the rest of the Givati and the Alexandroni, which was a little further away. And the Egyptian army came and killed the rest of the people that were left, those that were already wounded, and that's what they did. So they weren't able to retake this area. They retreated back to that area and ended up leaving this area. And the 87 people that were wounded or killed, the Egyptian army came and split their forces between Fallujah and this area, Iraq Al-Mashiyya, and then that's the way it stayed. Okay. In the time following that time, basically, the Egyptian army stayed from here until they left in February. Okay, but the Israeli army kept doing patrols in the area around to keep blocking supplies and for them to come along. Now I want to show you something which is very interesting, because Zaidi only has 2 or 3 pictures from the time that he was in the army. And I want to show you one because I made a very interesting discovery amongst one of these pictures. And what you can see here, this is a picture of Zaidi and his 4 little squadron of people. And you can see what's interesting about it is that obviously they're wearing sweatshirts. Why are they wearing sweatshirts? Because it was winter. And you can see that there isn't anything going on. And you can see that these are members of his brigade. One sec, I'll pass them along, okay? These are members of his brigade, okay? And these are the only pictures that he has. But one of them I found, which was very interesting, has a little inscription on the back. And it says, 1949, Ahar Chok Korban, Iraq, Al-Mashiyya. And this is where he was in Fallujah. So this is the spot that he was at in 1949. Ahar Chok Korban means, I looked up in Hungarian, means they're fighting on the front. And what you can see in this picture, a little bit better.
To take pictures, so that's fun.
A little bit better in this picture, even though it's hard to see, is you can see this hill and the city going back. So if you consider where Zaidi's sitting, maybe 100 or 200 yards that way, you can see the hilltop, which is this hilltop over here, and the city spanning out from behind us. So that's what I found in this picture, and I'll pass that around so you can see. Now for fighting in this battle, Zaidi received, this is ensure that he got it, an Ot Komamiyut. An Ot Komamiyut is the little, the little 4-colored thing that exists whenever you fight in a war in one of the battles for Israel, and this is it. And basically the Od Komamiyut, you can see it has a red line down the middle, which is a remembrance. Almost all of the Israeli armies, whenever they had a battle, have a red line somewhere along the Ods to remember the people who died. And these are for the Talit. It's supposed to be a remembrance of the Talit for the Od Komamiyut for the Tkumat Medina. So this is the one that he got, and this is the Ishur that he had. And you can see that he got it, as you guys can see, Komamiyut Benetanya. That's the area that he got it, because it was in the Alexandroni Brigade was in Netanya. Okay? So there you go.